I wish you all a very good afternoon and welcome to this talk, Gender in Post-Yugoslav Cinema. As any decent Balkan man would say, this is again some women talking about their problems and being not equal. But as one of the participants in this talk said earlier on, I think we should repeat. So we think we should repeat. So we will talk about these women not being equal again in the film industry. And of course, we should start with the numbers, because that is how we see that we are not as equal as we think. So the latest research showed that in world cinema, in the world film industry, there are no more than 20% women behind the camera. In European film industry, there was a research conducted between 2003 and 2017 that showed that only 21 of all European films were directed by women. And usually those were the debutant films, one and no other film in these 14 years. Also, it is very interesting to see that in 90 years of Academy Award, American Academy Award, only 5 women were nominated for Oscar for directing the best direction, and only 1 woman got it in 90 years. Slightly different in Europe, 5 women got Golden Bear and 1 woman got Golden Palm for the directing. So these are the numbers, but numbers are not what made up great women behind the cameras in ex-Yugoslavian cinema. Do we need them? Do we need to speak only about the numbers and to open discussion always with the numbers? I would talk with my excellent colleagues, and I'm very, very honored to have opportunity to greet Lana Barić, Mirjana Karanović, and Labina Mitevska, who will speak with you and me today. But before we start, just a few more details about the format itself. This discussion will last for about 40 minutes, and we will leave 20 minutes at the end for questions and answers. I would kindly ask you to leave your questions if you want to participate in the discussion in Q&A box, and we will read them in these 20 minutes opened for your questions and discussions. If there is a need for contact between the panelists, there is a message service that we can use. So again, allow me to greet Lana Barić, Mirjana Karanović, and Labina Mitevska. Hello, girls.
Hello, girl.
Should we start with this question that was kind of announcing our discussion? What kind of films do we make at all?
Well, we make kind of films that we are allowed to make. I mean, generally in Croatia, not many women got the chance to direct a film because they failed many times at the fund. So I think this is the place where we should begin, is to how to get the money. This is the biggest problem, because I think when I talk to my colleagues in Croatia who direct films, it took them a long time, a very long time, to get the funding for the film, even after the debut. You said in the beginning, this is very it took them a very long time after the first film to get the second one, which was not the case with our male colleagues, unfortunately. I have to compare all the time. As you said, we need statistics, just because it is so devastating. We need to talk about the numbers. And in general, I will probably most of the time or a lot of time refer to our male colleagues, which should not be in a negative way. It's just in comparison, show what still, you know, the statistics are just horrible. So this is, I have to refer to our male colleagues in order to make the point. And what happened in Croatia, which I think is a very good thing right now, in artistic committee that selects the films. Now we have 3 people, 2 of which are women. This is the first time that we have in the artistic committee which decides which films will be shot, 2 women. Usually it was 2 men. sometimes it was a man and a woman, and now we have, of course, 3 people, 2 of which are women. We've never had 2 women, just women, and this, I think, is a starting point, because surely they will pay more attention. I mean, generally we all have to. We all need this kind of support. You know, it doesn't matter, gender is not important, but we all need to pay attention to if women will get funded, and that women get funded, and ask ourselves, why does it take so much time? Why so much time passes until a female director gets a chance to direct? Because the statistics in Croatia, we also had a research in 2018, which was done by the Directors Guild. It's just devastating. It's, you know, it's, I don't know, I think only 4% of women won the Grand Prix award in the Pula Film Festival, you know, since 1952, which is like 70 years. It is, you know, it's really sad. And this is what we are trying to work on, and this is why we're here in the end.
Well, we have to admit that there were not so many women directors, if we speak, let's say, 20 years ago. That was even one of the reasons listed by the World Film Organization that conducted research, saying that usually directors are considered to be white male. Also, a cinematographer is, in the minds of people, white male. And that is the picture that we have. So we kind of hire the people that represent the picture that we have in our heads. Only 2% of all cinematographers are women. So that's even a worse statistic. But if we talk about the topics, to go back to what kind of movie do we make? No more expressions like chick lit or chick film. Fortunately, we kind of expelled those from the vocabulary. But if I would like to ask you, do you think that there is essential difference between the topics that female choose in difference between male?
For me, I don't think that there is a difference. You know, I think we are lucky enough to come from, all of us, from ex-Yugoslavian countries where we have so many interesting stories to tell, amazing history, amazing today lives. You know, a few years ago, I remember somebody told me, why only from Balkans we see war stories? Because this is our reality. You know, we have different ethnicity, different people living on this land. So I think we have many interesting stories to tell. And we can see in the last 15 years, so many women directors emerged from this land. Not so many, but some very interesting visual language, some very interesting and different views of telling. So I think, I don't think there is a different, there's probably different approach, different visual language, different sensibility of the way the women tell the story. But I think there is no difference in which kind of story women directors pick up and men directors pick up.
Still, are there women topics or this, let's say, women angle of perception? And do we need that in ex-Yugoslavian cinema? You said it right, we have all these stories, but they were all told, or most of them are told by men. Do we have a women perception on war, which is a topic that we use very much in our recent cinematography?
I think Mirjana can answer this question because she has played in Grbavica, which is a very good, you know, I think it's a great film, and also very good to this point. It's a film directed by a woman and about war, about the consequences of war. So I think this is.
And I think one of the rare films that actually tells this kind of a story about women and a story from the woman's perspective. So Mirjana, as I see, she is not with us, but she'll be back probably. This is these technical things that I was most afraid of, and now it happened. Okay, it doesn't matter.
I think we, I think, well, generally speaking, again, when I was watching films, there are really not that many films directed for a female protagonist in this kind of environment, which is a war. So yes, women do tend to focus on that, which is natural. We all speak about those things that trigger us, also that hurt us and that we are interested in. But also you said that some men said that they don't know how to cover these stories and talk from females' perspective. This is also my experience, not just in film, in life in general, and in theater. And I've had many discussions with also my male colleagues who said, like, okay, but help me and let's talk, let's discuss about this, because they said, okay, I lack this kind of experience and knowledge, I don't know how to approach it. And there's always very much room for the discussion also in this field, which is great. So I think we need to talk about it and we need to discuss, because yes, I mean, Zero Dark 30 was directed by a woman, but this is Hollywood. This is different. We're still talking about, the aspect of the business in Europe is not as much as in Hollywood. But yeah, I think this is I don't think of, I think a female director can direct a war movie. I mean, there are different kinds of war movies. So it can be from different kinds of perspective, as Jasmila did in Grbavica, and about the aftermath. And I think there's no limitation. It's just that we still lack some subjects, female concerned and female related. So, naturally, this is what the female director will take on in the end. But most of which I'm concerned is what you said is, so many stories have not been told. And I think so we haven't had the chance to tell them artistically and in the medium as, such as film, which is our medium, and that we need to tell them, and we have this need. And also Labina produced and acted in a wonderful film called God Exists, Her Name is Petrunia, which, also challenges this topic. So I think, we haven't had enough space for this, and we need it. We will tell our stories now because we need that space.
I think the perception of women in film is very important as well, because it's a media that reaches people, a huge number of people. So we have these ex-Yugoslavian films showing women in socialism as a pillar of the family or of the house, as a mother, as a worker, in earlier partisan films as a brave partisan woman who fights along with her male colleagues. But also many screenwriters from that period said that they don't know how to write a complex women character. Very few of those films covered all the aspects of the women's life in ex-Yugoslavia. Do you think that something has changed? Did we, with the new states and new cinematographies, so many of them, did we get more in-depth women's stories? Or are we still represented as cliches?
I think there is deeper problem in this issue in Balkan. We talk about now cinema, but we come from a region which is very macho, and it was through years like this. And I think the last 5-10 years, what is happening is amazing and is changing, but we need more and more and more force, and we need more of us and to support more of each other, because when I give a birth to my girl, and when we start reading to her books from all around the world, when she was 3 years, she asked me, "Mom, I don't want to read this book and this book and this book and this book." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because they're all men. why the boys can be magicians, and why the boys can have superpowers, and why we cannot. So everything comes from education. So yes, with cinema, it's a media, and it's we can change many things, but it needs to come through the education, through the society. We you know, when we started, I think our company with my sister and my brother 20 years ago, I remember our first film and shooting our first short film, every day coming home and crying, because me and my sister, we were surrounded by men who didn't want to follow Teona's direction because we were female. And Teona was first film director. Now things are changing. 70% of the students directing in our academy are women. So things are, it's a very slow change, but it's a change. But it's not, you know, it's not a change we need to make in a film, how we represent women. It's a change we need to make in our society, to go very deep and to educate our children, to educate our students. And, you know, I think it's really, it's a big change which will follow. But thanks God, it's happening.
I totally agree with you. We are talking about the cinema and cinematography and women in film or behind the cameras, but we cannot exclude the society and impact of the society in every field. We have the same story in almost every field in our societies as equality or legal equality, as I like to call it, is in question. You mentioned that we have many students in the academies, many female students of in directing department, also in producing department. That is usually where the problem starts, with education, because no equal opportunities for women and men, but we obviously have them. So what happens? When does it break? Why don't we, why do they give up? Why do these young women signing in director's department or producer's department, why do they give up? What happens? Lana?
Well, I think, well, funnily enough, I think we have many female student cinematographers at the Academy. And I think is the wrong perspective as, for example, cinematography being a male job, because you have, you know, the gaffer team, which you need to carry all these things. And it's just the perception of this being a male job, and not for some reason, I think it is not for some reason. I mean, it's like, it's just harder for female cinematographers to get some work. One of the best cinematographers that we have or had, Tamara Cesarec, is now in Canada, and it is just simply like that. It is harder for a female cinematographer to get some work. Also, as I said in the beginning, I talked that it takes a longer time for a female director to get funded than for a male director. And also because many men got funded. When you apply for a project, you have, it's like a circle, because you need the festival references, you need those points, you need your previous work. And, you know, the women don't have festival references and don't have previous work because they haven't had much of previous work. And it's just a slower pace for a woman. This is what Labina said, and it is right. We need all this kind of support to just acknowledge. That's why I think it is very important to talk about percentage and to talk about quota, because you cannot deny the numbers. The numbers are horrible and you cannot deny them, and it is really important just to keep repeating, even though it is boring. I know it is boring, but we need to think about them until it just becomes our reality. We need it, you know, to become our reality, because it's not like, you know, 40%, 60%, it's like 4%. I mean, what are we talking about? You know, it's sad. It is very sad.
The argument is that quota doesn't make excellence. We will not have best directors, female directors, by equaling quota. So what is your answer to that? I think that's a very...
We still need to think about it, because I think men have a bigger space for mistake than a woman. I think, you know, let's say if a male director or a man makes a mistake, it doesn't make it makes a film. He makes a film which is not very successful. He's more likely he will more quickly get another one than a woman. You know, I think I'm talking from my experience. This is my experience on set and in film. It is that women work harder, and then the space for an error, for a mistake, is much smaller than for a man, and it is like that. I understand that but you know, it's not just in directing; it's in all segments. It's also in jury, also in panels. You know, for example, we are talking about gender-related theme in film, and we have all-female panel. But if we talked about anything else, there is a great chance that you would have an all-male panel, and I've never seen an all-female panel in my life. You know, not talking about gender, not talking about, you know, issues about women, talking about general stuff, talking about economy, talking about whatever, weather, whatever, you know, in television. I've never seen an all-female panel, but I've seen lots of all-male panels. So we're not just talking about film. What Labina said, she has a great point. You know, we know in what kind of society we live in, and we know what are we fighting. I mean, you know, we can also say that, you know, many women on screen have been supporting men for a very long time, and male characters, building the main male character. And this is why at one point in my career, I have decided not to play a role which is not a protagonist, you know, because I just got bored not playing the protagonist, just playing the supporter of the male role. And this is also the subject that you talked about at the beginning, which I think is very important. So it's many aspects, you know, there's like hours and hours and days and years we can talk about these things. But yeah.
We live in a very traditional societies, no matter that we like to think about ourselves as a very modern societies on the way to Europe or in the Europe, as in your case. But still we are very bound by tradition and traditional division of roles. Film is also, and being an actress and being in the film or in the media is not something that tradition supports so much. Is our, I will not say, let's say, a task to change that, and how can we change that? Labina, you said that you had a problem on set, crying because people do not take you seriously or because you cannot reach to them. How do you continue?
You know, I just want to go a little bit back when you said, yeah, many women directors, and it's not statistic in Balkan, it's in Europe, that many women directors will somehow succeed to make their debut, the first film, and after that, it's very hard for them to continue. And this is so sad. And you know, it's happening because suddenly you become a mother, you need to clean, to cook, to earn money, to be director, to be concentrated. So we don't have enough support of all these female directors. And this support cannot come only from the industry. It needs again to come from the society. I remember when I was in Cannes 6 years ago, with my daughter who was 7 months, and I was breastfeeding her. I was not allowed to get into the market. And of course, I fight for 3 days. On the end, I was so angry that after 3 days, again, security didn't, first, of course, they didn't want to give me a badge. They said I said, but I'm breastfeeding, how I can work? On the end, security didn't want to let me in. And I said, okay, this is my baby. Keep her for 3 hours. This is her food. So after 3 hours, bring it to me because I need to work. Of course, he didn't want to get the baby. And I pass in and I was passing. I'm sorry, but you know, we all adore Cannes Film Festival. But if this institution doesn't give us support, you know, I cannot stop working if I'm breastfeeding a child. And only what I'm asking is to get in and to work, because I have meetings and I'm preparing a film. So, you know, these kind of institutions, we need their support. And thanks God we have now 50-50, which is not happening, but maybe in 20 years will happen. But we need, if we don't, me, by going there and screaming, I can do nothing. I tried really for 3 days. I screamed as in a monk painting. I was screaming, but they were saying, oh, but this is the rules. Oh, but this is the, oh, but you know, yeah, but we need support. These kind of things we need to, and it's not a Balkan issue. It's a women issue from all around the world. So I think, you know, we need to start from, and it already has been started and things are changing, but it's a big fight. It's a big fight for us, which we need to do it.
In all segments of the society, I think, and it's also very depressing to fight for, not to fight, but to be able to get your rights through being a screaming woman at the gate, I think. Why didn't you give up? And how do you find the strength not to give up?
For me, I'm like, is Labina, do you want to say?
No, I will say.
Yeah, go.
No, I didn't give up because I'm a fighter. This is in my, you know, in my society, if I'm not a fighter, I will be not here. You know, I learned that in this world, we need to fight. I need to fight. And this is how is it. And we need to fight for our rights. You know, somebody asked me a few days ago, are you a feminist? I said, no, all of us, we are born to be feminist. We don't have choice. You are feminist. She said, no, I'm not. Yes, your daughter is feminist, your granddaughter, we are born to be feminists, because when we are born, we don't have, it's sad, but it's true, you know.
Sorry for interrupting you, but it often happens that when you talk to women, that's about the gender issues, that's the first thing that you will hear. I'm not a feminist. That's usually the first thing that you will hear out of women. And I always say, okay, so what you are saying to me is that you don't support human rights, because feminism is a fight for human rights, nothing else. It's not a crucifixion of men or burning men at the stakes, but it's a fight for women's rights. How do we, and can we as an industry, kind of push this story through? And Lana, I still expect the answer of you. How and why don't you give up? Because I think it's important. Maybe there is someone there listening and trying to get its first movie or second movie, a young director or old director, and I mean, on the verge to give up. So help her.
I'm very persistent. I never take no for an answer unless it makes sense. I mean, really. But the more you reject, the more I go forward. It's just something that provokes me, because I see the injustice so clearly. It's everywhere, you know, for me. I mean, I am looking for it, so therefore maybe I see it more than other people. But if somebody says no or somebody rejects something, I push harder and push harder, you know, even more. It provokes me more when I get a no for an answer. And one of my friends said, like, oh, Lana, she always gets what she wants. But, you know, it's not about me. It's not, there are many people which do not have this kind of character. And I was just talking to my friend the other day, because, you know, it is very cruel for sensitive people, let's say, you know, for people who will then easily give up, because I agree with Labina that, you know, we need all the support we can get, because we really, it's just, we need this space, and it's not easy unless you take on, again, like we can say, maybe that is wrong, but we can say this manly, you know, sort of talking, or, you know, fighting, being this tough woman. I don't want to be a tough woman. I just want to be, you know, my character. Deep inside, I find myself an introvert. And I became all of this just because I had this urgent need to fight. And the only way I could fight is to use like all these weapons which people are used to, which can be considered like, you know, tough, strong and blah, blah. But, you know, I don't understand why tough and strong is so popular and not the sensitive, you know, nor like everybody. I mean, people who do art mostly are very sensitive, and this is why we do it, you know, from our inner need. And we need to discuss these things which we do not want to discuss in this way. We want to, you know, take it into our art, into our medium, which is our chosen medium, and not the panel, and not the, I don't know, you know, all these kinds of meetings and stuff. You know, there are lots of people, my people from the same branch, who do not want to talk to media at all because they have their medium through which they communicate. And we should have space in that kind of medium, which is chosen, which we have chosen. That's first. The second thing is, like, I was doing Eden, Labina knows the film because she knows Kočiš Agnes, who directed it. And it's a woman who is allergic to most of the things. And she's very sickly and hurting. And when we applied, when the director applied to Euroimage, they said that the character, it was rejected. And they said that the character was too weak, which I thought was really unfair. And because, as I said at the beginning, there's so many stories and so many battles that we have lost, you know, and we need to talk about them as well, because it's about the fight and the way that we lost them. And I think it is this story that we talked about in Eden is a beautiful story, and is a story about most of us not being able to cope with this kind of world. So I think it is important to say the stories, and we shouldn't exclude them just because we do not have a strong female protagonist, which is so needed right now. I mean,
exactly. I think,
you know,
I think we go to the beginning of this discussion and stories that are never told, because most of the scripts are written by a man, or because of the perspective that people see women through. I remember similar situation in which we applied for money, and we were told that these women from Bosnia in our script are too sophisticated, that they are used to women from Bosnia being more peasantly, which is
offensive.
Exactly.
And a very general perception. You know, what about, let's say, Corona right now? In the film, they also say, like, you know, this Bosnia has this characteristic, Dalmatia has this, Croatia this, Serbia has this. Like, now we're all under Corona. What now? You know, what is specific now? We're all dying of this sickness, which is like a plague. You know, I'm very offended by this generalization, mostly of women, you know, not so much of men. Of course, we, you know, Eastern European men are, you know, usually in Hollywood play these I don't know, criminals and stuff like that, but you know, still it's sometimes, you know, people are okay to do that for a huge amount of money, but still it's a problem of perception of Eastern European characters for men and women as well, and especially women. And what you said at the beginning, it is really important. I mean, we do mostly play these, you know, homemade supporting male roles, yeah,
housewives
and all these women which are like very passive, not protagonist roles, and this is boring. Nobody wants to do that anymore, and we need more female stories.
Let me just remind everyone that we are happy to take questions through our Q&A box. So if you have any questions, please do write them. What we need is an access to money, because that's the way to make films. How do we as women fight for our access to money? Labina, how do you do it?
I think I think that we need one of the change that needs to come to, it's from you know, when you say head of the funds are mostly men. Now I was trying to think in our country, only in Slovenia they have a woman from 7-8 countries. Head of selection committees, only Elma Tata-Ragić from Sarajevo Film Festival is a woman. Most of them are men. In their selection committees, people who are choosing the film, most of them are men. So, you know, when we fight 50-50, we cannot fight because the 50-50 for the film. Sometimes we will not have 50 good female films to be 50-50. But again, the change cannot come from up. The change can come from deep. So we need changes in selection committees. We need head of funds. We need the readers who are reading the script. It's you know, I don't know if a female or male reader will choose the female script. Probably not if it's not good. But if we have them more there, out there, what I realize that as a women, we are not supporting each other. And that's the sadness of our world. The men are buddies and they're supporting and they will call and they will pursue you that this line manager is the best one. Take him, with him I can work very good. But non-female will call you to support. So, you know, I remember for our last film, and I tell this often because for me it was striking to realize when I was trying to choose a line producer, and you have all these phone calls from a man, buddies from our industry saying, take this line, but he's very good, take this one. And I said, I made the interview, I said, but you know, I like the best, the female line producer. You know, I can't understand it. Oh no, but you are all male in your crew and on the streets to have a female line producer, somebody will beat you. I said, why somebody to beat us, you know? But you need strong men. So of course, on the end, you have 10 men supporting each other, saying to you, choose the man. Of course, I choose the female. We were female crew. I didn't choose her because but I wanted, yes, she's the only one I wanted to support him. And it was a great shooting. So I think we need support from each other. You need to give our hands more often to each other and to help each other, as same as the male do. And it's fair enough, you know, they know how to do it. We need to learn how to do it. But when we learn it, we can do the same.
Because we also need to remember that we are very small, you know, we are not very big, and most of the people know each other. And, you know, and most of the people who do work, as we saw through the statistics, are male, and they basically know each other. So this is true. I also have this experience that they talk to each other, can communicate more and introduce to work easily. So yeah, we need to support each other. There is a great story about this. I don't know if you know her. Her name is Margaret Mead. She's an anthropologist. And when they asked her, like, what in the ancient times, what was the start of the civilization in the culture? And she said, the femur that was broken and then healed. The femur is a thigh bone in an animal. And when it bone breaks, an animal cannot run. And it doesn't have enough time for the femur to heal because it will get eaten. But unless you have somebody to guard, you know, if you have somebody else to guard you, another animal or another comrade from the film society, you know, the femur will heal and you'll, you know, have your fight and your life and keep on going. So we need all the support we can get to you know, be a civilized society as we need to be. I think this is, you know, and as you said about feminism, it's not, it's fight about equality because we don't have it. So it's like simple as that, you know, all these stories about going against men, which is so silly. It's not true. It's silly. We just want, you know, we need to now fight for our rights because we don't have them. We are underrepresented and we need to fight for representation. That's all.
There's a question from some of our viewers, but also the question that I wanted to ask, but have you experienced these female bonds? Have you ever experienced that you were recommended or you recommended someone because of this gender thing? So if boys are buddies, then are we buddies sometimes as well?
I experience and I recommend every single day when I have chance. Of course, I never do it if I don't believe. You know, I would not recommend a film script, professional, because it's female. but because she is good, because this film is good. We need, first of all, we need to understand that, you know, in the film, there is no female and male. In the book, there is no female writers and male. In the painters, there is no female painter. If it's good, it's good, you know. And luckily enough, now we have a lot of very excellent, superb female creative person who are working in our industry around Europe. So of course, if I do it every day, and I do it with such a proud, and when I do my production, if we do a lot of interviews for every kind of position, of course you choose what is the best for the film and best for the director. But if you have the same quality, I would go for a woman.
Is it time to push introduction of quotas in the film festivals, and is there enough power to do so, and should we do it? Because there is also and always a question about the quality and excellence. So could we push the quotas into major European and world film festivals? There are film festivals supporting just women as directors, and yes, but I'm talking about the major European and world festivals. Should we push quotas?
Firstly, to answer the first question, I always recommend my female collaborators. I mostly work with women, and I have great collaborators behind the camera and in front of the camera. I have just directed my short film, and I have written a new short and a new feature, and most of my collaborators are women, and I always loudly recommend everybody, and I'm very proud that they're so good that I'm very proud to recommend them. And secondly, well, I don't think we need to introduce quota in a way that it should be a rule, because I think maybe I'm not sure it can be legally solved, but I think we need to strongly think about it all the time until it becomes unconscious, as it is for men. Because even, I say also for myself, I fall in these traps as well when I think about it, because it's monkey see, monkey do. We saw during, when we grew up, as Labina said, we are very patriarchal, very traditional society. You see all these men in all these positions, and it's like that, and it gets into your subconscious. So until this for women gets, becomes realistic, and that we need to think about quota artificially. We need to think, and this is what I make my colleagues think about when they have panels or something. I said, like, no, but you have only one woman and 9 men talking in your conference, which lasts like 3 days. You shouldn't do that. Think about it, because it is some I cannot say how this happens, but it's somehow easy. A man easily comes in their minds for some reason that a woman, and I think we do need artificially thinking about quotas and just talking about statistics boringly over and over and over until it changes. Because obviously now in Venice, if you see the lineup for the main competition, things are changing, and some other competitions, and if they're not changing, there will be many people who will say, still no women there. You still have, now you have voices which will point out and say, what happened there? Come on. What is happening? We talked about this. We've been talking about this for a very long time. Wake up. It's what we need to do right now, until it just becomes normal, because unfortunately it's not.
We often talk about the exploitation of women in the industry, but that's the question of actresses and presentation of female body, this cult of youth and cult of beauty. But I think the problem is much deeper. That's just the surface of the problem. We have a society that is obsessed with this cult of youth, like no one is getting old, or this cult of beauty that is very dictated. How do you look at it from the point of an actresses, because you are an actresses, and how do you look at it from the point of directors and producers?
When I remember when I was starting my acting career, I was 16, and I remember I was thinking, because I was traveling so much with my first film, Before the Rain.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very small, and I was most of the time observing. And I realized, I was thinking, oh my God, the actresses last until 40, 45. And after that, they take out of the shopping bag new faces. So I said, okay, I need to find a second profession. I cannot sit and wait because the youth goes. It's something inside which stays. But that was, then I was thinking like that. Of course, when you see now, Hollywood films or even European films, we are not interested so much in older persons, in older stories. But somehow it got, I don't know, I think we need again to go in statistic, because the most in Europe, the biggest audience are women, which they go to cinema, and are after 40. And most of the films they tell us people want to see are simple stories with younger actors, which I don't think is true. Something here, I think, in Europe we are lucky because we have such a clever audience. It's really a clever audience. They want to think, they want to discuss, they want to realize. So I think, I don't know, yes, about aging, but the good actor is good actor. We have all these amazing actors who, no matter how old they are, we want to see them, the script. We have amazing stories from all the early stories. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have a big problem with this. This is mostly why now I played a lot of roles which are not like that, which are mostly like, we would say, normal women. We live in a highly aestheticized society, and through these social media, the bodies get corrected all the time into some kind of perception of perfection. And I think we also the change comes from the society and from our relation towards ourselves, our bodies and our lives, and the respect towards us, and the respect from one person to the other. Because for me, I think the society has gone in a silly direction. And yes, youth is the best thing right now. Yeah, the most popular thing in the world, it is youth, unfortunately, which is horrible, because we all know this is temporary, and you're not going to get younger. Tomorrow I'll be older than I was today. It's just the nature, it's a reality, so we should accept it. And what I did is, like, I mostly play characters which are not like that. Right now I'm not wearing any makeup. In my last show in Croatian National Theatre, where I work, I wasn't wearing any makeup at all. Not having, I had a hair like that, and this kind of, it is a sort of rebellion which I do right now, because I feel the need to do it. And also I got to the point where I really felt relaxed, and I've never had a problem with my body. I've shown it. I played in Romeo and Juliet when I was 19 years old, and I was still studying acting in Sarajevo, and I took my clothes off in my first professional production on my second year. And most of the people said, like, oh, don't do it, you're too young, you're, blah, blah, you don't want to start your career like that. I was like, what is this? First of all, you're not going to tell me what to do if I'm going to show my body. Second of all, it was a great sign, theatrical sign. It was functioning, and it was painful, and I knew this made sense. And as long as I know it makes sense and it contributes the story, the relationship, and the overall story, I will go for it. But yes, it's a lot of pressure on women, and unfortunately we also have to talk about it. we also have to talk about that a lot, and of self-respect, and of, you know, that the general perception of respect, and of, you know, it's, you know, we are getting older, and the bodies are getting saggier, and it's okay to see that as well, you know. It's life, and we are here to talk about life. So
yes, we always say that the theater represents life, movies also, films also, but we kind of represent certain forms of life, or at least some films kind of escape to represent all forms of lives. If we talk about the female characters, what kind of a female characters, that's the question, do we need? What kind of female characters that would create a male characters? I think it's a question that goes back to you, Lana, saying that you don't want to play, that you play only protagonists.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, I just decided at one point that I started noticing that I was getting many these roles. I want to just say it's not about supporting roles. It's about roles supporting men.
Yes, that's the question. Sorry, does this shift in female roles have an effect on men on screen?
Well, yes. I mean, the film that I was writing, and I'm just screening across the Croatia, I got some remarks that, you know, male roles are superficial.
So maybe we should write together, females and males, so we can go in depth of every character.
We have some questions, I see. Or...
Yes, I read the questions that we have. Most of the people are just thanking for talking about this subject. Oh. And when we were discussing,
I have
one. Sorry,
I have an anecdote. When we were shooting God Exists, her name is Petrunia, of course, the female, Petrunia's character is the leading one. So we have all these actors, and of course she's surrounded by all these men who are making her life miserable. So we have all the actors coming to the set, and of course not going to Teona, but to me, and saying, "But Labina, you know, we heard that if you are a male in this film, Teona is cutting your head." I said, "What do you mean? Who told you this?" But all the actors are speaking about that the cadrage that she makes, the frame, it's always female in the center and the male are cut. I said, "Oh, it's a good concept." So they were speaking that Teona is cutting the female, the male heads.
No one cuts anything from males. That's the story. So we began with the question, what kind of films do we make? And Lana, you said a great thing. We make films that we can make. But I would like to end with the question, what kind of films should we make?
For us, me and my sister and our company, for us there is no question. We should make films which they scream about the world. We should use cinema as a tool for change, and there is so much need for change in this world. We need so much change that we really can use cinema for this. And there, change in every aspect. In my country, believe me, we are very unpopular artists, especially the politicians. They hate us. Every time we make a film, they ask us, why you always need to criticize? Why you need always to tell these stories? Why you don't make a comedy? It's because we don't want. We want to speak about the world today, about things which concern us, about the sadness, about the poverty, about injustice. And it's not female-male. It's about the world today. And I think and the film needs to be honest. We need to make honest films. which comes from deep from inside. So for me, we just need, and it's hardest, you know, it's hardest because everyone criticizes you and everyone tells you that they know better than you. But this is what we are and this is what we want to do.
As I said at the beginning, since I've talked a lot with the director of Croatian Audiovisual Center and told him about the need for women to be in the artistic committee who decide on which films will be funded, he really had paid attention to that and called me and asked me, do you have somebody to suggest? Asked people around. So this is really important, as I said in the beginning, to have, as Labina also pointed out, to have women in the committees, to have women in all kinds of positions, to have women in juries, presidents of the jury, you know. This is the first step. And the second step, I completely agree. You know, we are not going to be limited to subjects. We're not going to, but we are going to be provoked by our stories, which were not told, as I said, and many of which are very painful, especially because we come from these countries which were once, you know, one another country, and many falling apart happened to all of us. Yes, these are our very, very intimate stories. And since we are, you know, very much about heart and very much about enthusiasm than about money and business, because you all know in ex-Yugoslavia, we don't have a lot of money for culture. We don't have any money for culture. We don't have any money for films. We mostly do it from our hearts and from our enthusiasm and from our very need to tell this story and to show it to the world, because for us also film is maybe the only way for us to reach the world and to tell these stories, which will be, of course, you know, in many different subjects. The films that I wrote, and I wrote them, I think, three shorts and 2 features right now. Yes, they all have a female in the center of the film and the female problem, and these problems are intimately connected to me. Intimately, yeah. And they're many of the parts of those films are provoked by the events that actually happened, and then I developed them, and they're they're not necessarily autobiographical, but they're very personal and very intimate. And this relies to what Labina said. It's about the intimate story and the truth, because we have this need and this space to tell those stories, and I think they're worth hearing.
I just want to say something quickly, very quickly for the end, because I think it's very good. When we are looking money for Petrudia, the first country we approached was Denmark. And we were refused by their fund, saying that it's unbelievable, it's not true story, it's a fiction. This is not happening in the world. They love it, but they said for Danish, from Scandinavian people, the woman to be treated. Of course, after that, fastly we got the money, we went in Berlin, blah, blah, blah. In Berlin, believe it or not, the first country who bought the film were Scandinavian countries. So they say, oh my God, there is, you know, in the middle of Europe. So I think this kind of exchange and sharing the experience can only make us going forward and forward.
Exactly, because I think we are falling a bit behind, and some stories are very hard to believe because many other countries have been, you know, there for like
no, they don't have
for like 50 years.
They don't have gender issues in Sweden, you know. It's
well,
great.
They started 500 years ago, so by now they finished everything they had to say about it. No, I'm just joking. Thank you for sharing your experiences. We have to wrap it up. I'm sorry we lost Mirjana Karanović. I think she would be a very good in this discussion, but we lost her due to technical problems. Thank you, Labina. Thank you, Lana. I wish you all the best in your work. I wish us all the best in our work. And I wish if there is someone watching and starting to do this, not to give up. You heard you should scream. And then you will screen. So let's wrap it up, girls. Thank you very much for this discussion. Thank all of you watching, and stay with Sarajevo Film Festival.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.